This show is brought to you by
6 years old, maybe. Productions.
Yo, Vault Dwellers, how we doing?
Hey-o. Ho.
There you go. Get the stick out your mouth and then say something.
I inhaled, and that was almost a problem. Big Daddy over here almost just inhaled a toothpick. Almost inhaled a toothpick. That
So for really anybody who might remember like the WWF Attitude Era, he's walking around with a toothpick in his mouth like Farouk. You know what I mean? Back with the Acolytes.
What?
APA.
What a fucking pull, bro. What
Look,
a pull.
I could have easily said Triple H because he had an era with a toothpick. You know, I could have said Undertaker. I think during the American Badass era, he was doing that too.
Yeah.
But yeah. Nah, Farouk was the first thing that popped in my mind, which makes me only want to say, damn.
Oh. And Bradshaw was so much better before he turned into JBL. That rich heel turn.
It was a really great turn.
Yeah.
Like dude, it made his career. And then when we started doing ringside commentary. But we're not here to talk about wrestling.
I was about to say, as usual, we just kind of went off on a tangent there because this episode has nothing to do with the World Wrestling Entertainment. But we're going to get into episode 5, The Path.
Yes.
Of the critically acclaimed Fallout series on Amazon Prime. You can watch it today. Like I did.
Watch all of it.
Absolutely. And episode 5, what I liked about it, while not as much action-packed, they definitely drove the story forward.
Yes, they did.
They definitely drove the story forward. Made you think a little bit, too, because there's still some unanswered questions as of the end of episode 5.
That is true.
Some big ones.
I love how it started, though. I love how it started with you had Maximus and
his squire.
Thaddeus,
yeah.
Taddy.
I don't know. But yeah, they're basically talking about the battle that they had to get the head.
And they just kind of talking about the gulper and everything. And like Maximus, he felt like he could actually be himself and be Maximus around his squire. You mean
they were laughing?
He thought it was all fucking dandy.
Mm-hmm.
And so he decided to pop his mask up.
Well, not until after he branded him. Because remember, at first Thaddeus wanted his brand because
that was huge.
Yeah, because that's his official welcoming into being
a squire. Squire.
I almost said scribe.
No, it's same group of people.
I know,
but that's no. That's more the clerical area.
Yeah, and he got his brand, and then basically right after that happened. Max, I forget exactly, how it flowed, but Maximus said something, and then basically Thaddeus was like, dude, I'm your squire, you can tell me anything. You can tell me, love life, regrets, fears, all that.
They were at that point in the bromance to where
they were having a moment.
Nothing could go wrong.
No,
there was nothing that could happen to make you turn your back on your man.
And then cut to the mask up.
He kicks his mask up, and then Thaddeus loses his shit.
Because he realizes what had to have happened
to Titus.
And B, just the second the mask lifted up and he realized that it was Maximus of all people.
Yeah. So the wild thing was that I love that Thaddeus paid that much attention with him being a squire and all, with knowing all the ins and outs and like the spots where you can dip where the power armor can't flex.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when he grabbed the fusion core out of the back of the power armor, which for anybody who's played the games, you can't do anything with the armor if you don't have a fusion core.
Not operational.
It's not operational at all.
And that includes getting out.
Yes.
And let's just say Thaddeus decided to leave. Well, first, we're going a little too far. Maximus did try. He tried to get Thaddeus on board and to get their stories straight, because at that point, Thaddeus knew that something fucked up happened to Titus.
Yes.
And, Maximus was talking about them getting their story straight, and, we don't have to worry about this, but Thaddeus was not about to hear it, because he was like, dude, they're just going to kill you the second they find that out when we get back. So absolutely not. So at that point, Maximus, puts his mask back down, and he's like, all right, sorry, I gotta fucking kill you now.
It's not personal. You know what I mean? And
that might be a little personal.
I mean, that particular kill definitely could be.
Might be a little personal. I mean, maybe in that moment he had forgotten about it for a second or moved past, but yeah. So he tried his best, and like you said, Thaddeus knew all the spots to be able to dip and get out of the way. And
I found, like I said, with that particular scene, I found that very, very, very cool to have that little bit of like inside knowledge, to where it's like, okay, without the fusion core, it can't do anything. So in order for him to even just get back there was just, I mean, that was a feat amongst itself, just having Thaddeus being able to get behind him.
Yeah, and once he did, like you said, he done stole that fusion core and
took Will Zig's head.
Took Will Zig's head and took off and the dog.
The dog followed.
And basically just left Maximus there to die, essentially.
And he was... Okay, so I'm reading a recap of the whole episode. You mean, because I did watch it just a bit ago, and it says next morning. I'm sorry, I thought that was days later, him being in that suit for that long, because he was losing his fucking mind. Yeah, but I don't know with how hot. I mean, look how much he was fucking sweating. With how hot it had to be in there, I don't know that he would have made it a couple days. Yes, no, you're probably right.
But yeah, all of a sudden you just see some rad roaches coming up, huge rad roaches coming up to investigate what's going on. They find the power armor and they got a little hungry. They started.
Something's inside. They will eat. They
started eating, and he was freaking out.
But again, the fusion core is gone. So no matter how much he's freaking, you don't see any movement on the outside of the power armor.
No,
like none. It weighs that much that you cannot tell that he's in there trying to move, but it's just not going. And
it seemed as though one of the rad roaches found a soft spot that it could, after a while, work through and get up in there, and that thing got popped. That thing got popped by none other than
Lucy.
Yes, we finally have another meetup. Because they haven't been together in the same scene since the dust up with the ghoul in episode 2.
Yeah, in
episode 2. So basically, she saves. She comes in, she shoots all those rad roaches out. She gave that last one the business, because the last rad roach, she mudhole stomped that thing about 10 times.
Yo, with going into the wrestling thing earlier, stomping a mudhole.
That's why it is. Yes. That was stone
Absolutely.
Cold right there.
Oh God,
she stone cold stomped a fucking mudhole, and then they got into a little conversation. And her, rightfully so, was a little hesitant to just blindly trust Maximus, because as soon as she rolled up and he started talking to Maximus, she threw up, and he realized, like, dude, you got radiation poisoning.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I have some RadAway in my sleeve. If you let me out, I'll give it to you. And she was basically like, every single thing up here has fucking lied to me and tried to kill me since I got up here.
So why would you be any different?
So exactly. So why would you be any different? And he really, really essentially just got through to her with logic, which was like, I mean, if you don't let me out, you're going to pass out and you're going to be gone and I'm going to be stuck in here. So you can either let me out and we can both do this thing.
Yeah.
Or you can not trust me and we're both done. So, she lets him out. She knows the manual
see
spot.
The reason.
Yep, and she's got some knowledge on the T60s.
So the great thing is that there are a whole bunch of like engineering manuals in the vaults, just for reading digest, just for a little something when you want the can.
Everybody got poop. I was gonna say everybody got poop. Everybody's got poop. They ain't have iPhones. They ain't got their iPhones.
So one of the manuals that was there was actually for the T60, because the T60 has been in circulation since the bombs dropped in Anchorage. So
my brain goes in weird places sometimes. You know what's kind of strange to me? All this technology, you got Pip Boys. You can't even get Snake on that motherfucker to play while you on a can. You got to read manuals about fucking power armor. How do we not have a game on that thing? No Pac-Man? No nothing?
I mean, look, there has to be something. I mean, look, I don't know what Lucy
Dude,
has.
Nokia figured it out. If they can figure it out, I'm pretty sure Vault Tech could.
I mean, I think Vault Tech is a little bit better.
I mean, yeah, they should be able to fucking... They should be able to play Fallout on that shit. But anyway, so yeah, that's how she got her knowledge on the T60s. And shortly after she let Maximus out, she did pass the fuck out.
Yep.
And Maximus caught her. And dude, honestly, up until that point, and even well, maybe a little less now, but up until that point, I still didn't know how I felt about Maximus and just what his intentions were and how far he was willing to go to do whatever the hell he wanted to do. So there was a part of me that was like, he might just fucking leave her here and dip out. Like,
so you can see with the actor, he's holding that second level of Maximus back.
Mm-hmm.
You can see behind his eyes that there is something there besides this awkward, you know what I mean?
Awkward
this
for himself
type of guy.
Yeah, that just will do whatever it takes to get what the fuck he wants.
No, and that's the thing. And it's like, I mean, thinking back to Dane and the cut on the, on the Achilles tendon and everything, like all of that. If he was actually the one that did that in order to be able to become a squire, I wouldn't put anything past him at all. And that would ease. And then once Lucy passed out from the rad poisoning, he could have, unfortunately, he could have done whatever the hell he wanted.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about the argument between the man and the bear. Yeah. That's pretty much what that was right there. But
before we find out what he does do, fades to black, and we pick up with Norm. And awkward Cuzzo. I always forget his name.
Chet?
Sure. Sounds like an awkward Cuzzo name.
I believe it's Chet.
Norm and let's see. Chet. Probably Chet. But they go, they're back exploring. They're in Vault 32, and they make their way to the door for Vault 31.
Chet.
Okay. So Norm and Chet make it to Vault 31.
Yep.
And they find a very disturbing image, which is I want to say it was 2 or 3. I think it was 2 vault dwellers, obviously way dead, but vault dwellers like up against like the wall about to go into Vault 31, and there's writing on the wall that said, what did it said we know what's in there, or something like that. Creepy as fuck. So they're trying to get into Vault 31, and you see, bloody writing on the wall that says we know what's in there.
Yeah, so
we still don't know.
No, I mean, yeah, no, we don't know. But then you end up finding out that every overseer from Vaults 32 and 33 originally came.
That didn't happen. I literally have it in front of me. It didn't happen. That happens later after the next overseer gets elected, because she ends up in the system.
That's right. My bad.
I got you, bro. So they go exploring, and once they find that fucked up shit with Vault 31, they make their way back, and as they're coming back, they run into Betty, who
she's a terrifying woman.
And the hilarious thing was, Chet, as they're walking back, he's just like, if anyone asks where we are, I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah.
And the first thing Betty says, where were you guys? And he pretty quick, we were planting potatoes. We're planting potatoes. Sorry, potatoes.
Yeah,
and she believed it, or did she? Who knows?
I mean, look, again, from what we know a little bit later on in the episode, it's, that those people are sitting kind of on a different level.
Agreed. So now, after, we get done with Norman, Chet, and what they find, what they find almost going into Vault 31, we now get back to Maximus and Lucy, and as soon as they cut back to them, you just see an IV bag of RadAway. And you're like,
which was awesome.
And you're like, oh, thank God this dude did the fucking right thing.
Well, that on top of the fact of just seeing it, as a video game player, and seeing the RadAway bag and shit like that.
Yeah. And thanking God that I never had to do it that way in the game. All I had to do was hit go ahead.
Shit.
Some bitch. That I never had to do it that way in the game. I didn't have to find a spot to chill, hook my IV up, and just relax for a bit.
That would have, it definitely would have brought a real anxiety level to
could you imagine if you just had to find a safe spot, chill for a certain amount of time, say it's video games, so you can't be too crazy, say it's a minute, but you still have your sidearm. and God forbid you're up there and there's a clock that tells you how much time's left, or it goes up and you see a death clock coming or something. Could you imagine? Oh.
Okay, so I'm already putting that in my head, this whole thought process that you're just now saying. And it is beyond terrifying, because you do something similar in Helldivers 2. Because you have to carry this SSID card or whatever. This is a whole big package, and all you have is whatever your secondary gun is. Whether it's a one shot revolver, whatever the case may be, and it it is like, dude, that shit's anxiety ridden as hell, because you know what I mean, you're holding a valuable part of data and you're only using just a pistol. You know what I mean? Just something that's a fraction of the power of your primary.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. That'd be cool if they added it.
I don't know. They would have to have like, that would have to be like hardcore mode. Something like that.
Most games have them now.
Well, I mean, Fallout's had them.
Meanwhile, back to Lucy and Maximus. After you find out that he did save her, they get to talking, and we cut a little bit of the fat in the conversation. She basically asked, like, "Hey, you know, this brotherhood that you come from, like, they got more armor and like guns and like high powered guns?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she then basically essentially figures out that everybody is looking for this damn head. So they basically work out a deal, and she's like, "Hey, how about this? I have a tracker here. I can track this head. I know where it is.
Mm-hmm.
So let's link up. You take the head back, get whatever it is you're looking for from this place for bringing this head back, and in return, you get me basically some of your guys, some of those suits, and you go help me find my dad."
Yep. Take out Moldaver and get her family back.
So they, they decided. It was hesitant at first because he didn't want to do it.
I mean, look, at the same time, Lucy fucking hates it on the surface. She's been having literally the worst time.
And she hits him with all the things to get him to think. She was basically like, "Look, if you didn't want to do this, you had multiple opportunities to kill me back there.
Yep.
And you didn't.
Yep.
You could have let me die, and you didn't. So let's just get this thing popping."
And again, there is something behind his facade. He's definitely wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you.
I would think so.
Think so.
He so far to me is by far the most complex character.
Yes.
Because he's tough you can't figure him out. Lucy, you can figure her out in a second.
She's very
easy
simple, naive. You know what I mean?
Which I get it based on where she was from.
And that's the whole thing, dude. Her character is essentially us.
Their experience is molded.
Yeah.
As everyone's do.
But I mean, her character is essentially, the character Lucy is essentially the character that we all play when we play Fallout.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, because we are the newbie going out into the world, not knowing shit about it, especially when I first started playing Fallout 3.
The only difference between us and her is we know to shoot first and ask questions later.
Yes.
But that's just because we know the game. But
yeah.
Anyway, so after they set off, because they do agree to go and do this deal, so they set off, and then we go right back into Vault 33 because it is election time.
Yes, you have the election between Reg and I do have the names here. Reg and Woody and Betty.
And this scene was hilarious because you got these two dudes in line, and the way they are in these vaults, and it's funny because Lucy alluded to it, which is the way life is in these vaults. Like, essentially, she says it, the worst thing someone can do in these vaults is forget to thank you for something. Like, that is how they are honest and truthful and good people and all that. So this dude is in front of, I forget who it was, but it was one of the people that
Woody.
It was Woody. So this guy's in front of Woody, and he's basically turning around, just telling him all the reasons he's not voting for him. And this dude's just trying to get the conversation going. He's like, "It's okay. I get it. I mean, that's why we're voting in private. Like, you don't have to tell me these things." And the dude just keeps going. He's like, "Well, she's been overseer before."
Which is something we didn't know.
True, which is something we didn't know. We do find out later.
Why?
Not much later. But, so he just keeps telling her, like, tell him, like, "Buddy, I'm voting for Betty." And then at the end, the dude's like, "Yeah, I kind of."
Who am I kidding?
I kind of caught that.
But at the same time, when he goes into the ballot box, he sits there and goes, "Who am I kidding?
Yeah,
I'm not going to win this." So he votes for Betty as well.
too. Yep. He votes for Betty as well. That's right. And that's how. And the entire time that they're doing, and this is a big part because this has always been a part of Fallout that they didn't, unless I missed it in the first 4 episodes, is the first time that they actually spoke about it in this one, which was Reclamation Day.
They've said some things about it.
I must have just not been paying attention for a second, but as the election's going on,
it is the big thing for the vaults. The reason that
that's the biggest thing. That's the reason for
it's the whole reason for them. Yes.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of Reclamation Day is to repopulate the surface and have a world back with the stars and stripes and all.
And that was essentially the storyline of, was that 4 or 76 that was built around Reclamation Day?
4.
4. Okay. But yeah, so there you can hear as the election's going on over the loudspeaker, they're talking about Reclamation Day and it's coming and blah blah blah. So after the election, which I don't believe at that point you actually found out who.
No,
you did not. it then cuts back to a very weird scene with Lucy and Maximus. They're kind of walking down this railroad track. She's asking him, picking his brain about what happened over the last 200 years since the bomb fell. She was like, I know everything before that, and but all
missing a little bit of
missing a little context here on how all of like what's going on now.
Now the funny thing was that Maximus didn't even think that people were in the vault. He thought his words were there. I just thought they were full of monsters. And I mean,
basically, it's just a short scene of them both catching each other up on game. She's giving him, what was going on down there.
On the ground.
He was telling her a little bit what's going on, what's up there. Nothing super duper important. She does tell. I'm assuming it's going to tie in soon because you've heard about her mom a little bit, and then you're starting to hear more and more. So she was telling a story about how her mom took her out, which wasn't really out. But she felt like it was real. She was like, I felt like I was out there with the sunshine on my face and whatnot. So she clearly was very close with her mom.
Yeah, I'm very curious to find out what actually happened.
It's got to be coming. I highly doubt that they're going to drag that into season 2.
To Rose McClane.
Yeah.
And even just why anybody from the service would even have her Pip-Boy to begin with.
Exactly.
So I'm very curious about all that stuff.
Now, back to where you tried to go a few minutes ago. So after they're catching each other up on game, you get back on Norm, and he's going through some information on one of the computers, and he's going through intervault trades, and he finds out essentially every time they get a new overseer, they come from Vault 31.
Because there is actually a saying that has always been used within Vaults 31, 32, and 33. Because for some reason, these 3 vaults are linked, and they haven't really gotten into that part yet either.
Yeah, because it wasn't like that in the games. Like, once you came out of one vault, you had to go and find another one. This is like, you can just walk through Vault 33, get to the door for 32, and then go through 32 and get to 31.
Yeah, which, again, in the games wasn't necessarily the case.
Yeah.
And
could also just be their creative.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like in Cali, where they had, a lot of like the original stuff. That's where the lore is supposed to be started. They could easily have vaults that are different than what we normally deal with. But the saying is, when things look glum, vote 31.
Yeah. And they're going to go, you're going to learn why they say that at some point. But it's very strange that every single overseer came from there. And that's also when Norm found out that Betty won, because her name popped up.
Yeah, because Betty, so every overseer, not only in 33, but also in 32, have come from 31, including Hank McClane.
Mm-hmm.
And also another person that's from 31 that we just find out about is Steph.
Yeah, you do find that a little bit later, but you do find that out. At at Betty's inauguration celebration, whatever you want to call it.
I don't know what
that was the first time where I really felt like it was that situation where Norm knows something's fishy with Betty, and Betty knows that Norm knows something fishy is going on, because it's that weird thing where like the way they're interacting with each other is like they're both holding back a little bit.
They're waiting to see who slips first.
Exactly. It's one of those things where like, okay, I know you know that I know that something's weird here.
And I know that you know that you know that I know.
Exactly. So he makes a little like chit chat, congratulating her and stuff like that. But it's almost like he's trying to read her. He's trying to figure shit out. Is basically what's happening. And then this whole episode full of just cuts back and forth.
It really is.
Because then it goes right back to Lucy and Maximus trying to cross these train tracks, this little fucking overpass, and on the other side you got 2 people that you couldn't even tell right away. I thought they were ghouls at first because it was so far away you couldn't tell. You just saw that it was 2 people, one in a cowboy hat and one
just covered up. I mean, because
covered up.
They're in the desert. And essentially, so.
It's hilarious that even still at this point, Lucy is Lucy and Maximus is Maximus, because the first thing Maximus wants is for Lucy to give him her gun.
Yes,
because he's like,
10 mil.
It's like, these are 2 people over there. We have no clue who they are, and we're up here in the waste. And she basically hollers over and asks if they're armed, and they say no. To which she replies that they're not, or no, Maximus says that they're not armed either, and Lucy's all up in arms. She's like, but we are.
What the fuck are you doing?
Like, we have a gun. Like, why are you lying? It's like, one day, maybe episode 8, you'll understand how things work out here. But she devises this smart, like, a plan that only could come from a vault dweller to try to have peace, no violence. So she decides that everyone just puts their hands in the air and will slowly walk past each other, no problem.
Motherfuckers sidestepping with their hands up.
They're literally sidestepping with their hands up, like some old Western style. And then as soon as they get in front of each other, the woman on the other side notices the Pip Boy on Lucy, and she just gets all sorts of crazy. Like, she gets this look in her eye, she licks her lips, and all of a sudden, homeboy pulls out a gun. Luckily, Maximus is a little quicker. That dude was really slow because he already had his piece on, and Maximus had to reach and get the one off Lucy.
Yeah.
But Maximus reaches over, grabs the gun, pops homegirl in the throat, I think.
Deserving.
If I remember correctly. And then homeboy does get a lick on Maximus, gets him in the arm.
Gets him in the shoulder.
But Maximus gets the bigger lick and puts one right between the eyes. Literally right between the eyes.
They have done such a great job in this TV show. I was about to say, in this TV show, really getting in on that, like, that's type thing to where it's like, you know what I mean? Like the headshots and like seeing them line up, seeing them go. Absolutely.
And then, Lucy's all panicking and freaking out, and you find out that they're basically fiends. People that are just going to be up here eating other people.
Yes. So because of that information, and Maximus had an idea that something would be maybe wrong a little bit, but then, luckily he had his training to be able to have quick enough reflexes.
Yep.
But, so you continue. While they continue going ahead and doing that, they make their way to the Hawthorne Medical Laboratories and Research. I did it wrong again? I'm looking at this. Oh, there's a flashback.
You're on the wrong thing. Not a flashback. It's not a flashback. They cut back to Norm. This is where they find out about Steph. Because they cut back to Norm. He's in the room with Chet, and Chet is playing with Steph's baby.
Yeah, the baby.
She's keeping the baby he's keeping the baby occupied.
When she was shaking
this little rattle while he's showering. And when she comes out, and you find out that she was in Vault 31 as well, Norm was like about to leave, but then he turns around and he tries to pick her brain. He asks her, he says, how's Vault 31 different from Vault 33? And what was her answer?
The mashed potatoes are a little bit better here or there.
The mashed potatoes were a little bit better there, and he said that his dad used to say that too.
Yeah, which is just so fucking strange. Again, it's that weird like pod people fucking mind shit. That's that's very Stepford Wives. It's very creepy.
Yeah, basically. And now you can cut back to where
Ooh, okay, cool. Thanks, man.
Oh well, beforehand you do have to talk about the sign and the population thing because that was a big holy fuck like to Lucy.
Yeah, because Lucy was expecting there to still be millions upon millions of people. And the sign said, first capital of the new California Republic, boasting a population of 34,000.
But what really fucked her up was, like, she thought that that's what they were doing. Like a reclamation day essentially already happened.
And the vaults were never opened for.
Yeah, because she's looking up at this sign and she's like, how is there a population of 30,000 here? We never left. Like, we were down there. Like, we were supposed to come up and basically save humanity. So,
but then Maximus was like, yeah, but that stuff didn't work.
Yeah, he was like, well, it didn't work anyway. So.
And and he was the one that, was up on the surface the entire time. You know what I mean? Like, because it was the one Titan, that he saw, or not Titan, the one
yeah, because they keep walking after they see the sign and they see a big old fucking hole in the crater in the ground where obviously a nuke would have gone off, and that's where you see like what was probably arguably the most famous line from every trailer that came out for Fallout when she looked at him and she was just like, what even happened here? And he looked at her and he was just like, everybody wants to save the world, they just have a different idea on how.
I love that.
That's a great line.
It is a great fucking.
It is absolutely a great line, and that's you do see the flashback there about how he survived.
Yeah, because he
ended
up hiding in a refrigerator.
Yeah,
after his parents were killed and everything else, and it was the only way that he could fucking survive. But then that also brings it to the thought of how old is it?
Yeah, because he's supposedly human.
That's my point.
And you were in a fucking, like, maybe not necessarily, because how long were you in that refrigerator for?
I mean, couldn't have been. Honestly, couldn't have been that.
Yeah.
Human body can't last like.
And clearly he's got his infatuation. That's how he, wanted to join the Brotherhood or whatever, because the first thing he sees when he comes out of there is a big old suit of armor walking at him. But at that very moment is when Lucy finds out just how wounded Maximus actually is, because he is leaking. And she looks at him and she's just like, dude, that's more than just a scratch. We need to get you some help.
Yep.
So they do make their way to, like you said, there was the Hawthorne?
Hawthorne Medical Laboratories and Research Development Building.
And we've seen buildings like that in the games.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. And there's always good shit in there. There's usually always a bobblehead. And you'll find some
You got a
good shit in there.
bobblehead, you got a handful of good guns, you got a whole fuck ton of ammo, normally.
Yeah. Now, of course, because she doesn't know what goes on up here, and he does. He tries to stop. Like, even though he's the one hurt and knows he needs it, he's like, what do you do? Like, don't go in there. You don't know what the fuck's in there.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, yeah, well, first aid supplies might be in there. Once she goes in, you don't see her anymore.
And that is such the Optimus thing of, like, not only, but also, like, again, as the character that normally plays the game.
Like, I don't care. I'll put myself in harm's way to try to help you out.
On top of the fact that I'm almost guaranteed there's going to be fucking med supplies. Because
it's a medical center.
There is almost always medical supplies in big buildings in these worlds, in these games.
Absolutely. So once she goes in, you no longer see her. Then it starts to follow him, because he eventually goes in too. And he finds a door that says medical supplies, which, Lucy clearly found as well. And as soon as he opens the door, or as soon as he tries to open the door,
Ooh.
Another door shuts behind him. You see the smoke almost like in those rooms that have to like release pressure and shit like that. Or before you go, like before you go into a clean room and stuff like that too. And as soon as that happens, the floor drops out and he just pitfall, bro.
Yep.
Pitfall. And they leave them there for a bit, and of course we have to then circle back. Then it takes you back to the vault. I wasn't kidding when I said this episode hopped around a lot.
It
did.
Like
they didn't linger on any one of them for a while. Like the last few episodes, you had a good stretch of time with one or the other before they went elsewhere.
Yeah,
they were really hopping back and forth in this one.
I think every time Lucy's involved, they want to make sure that people remember that she is a vault.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is. So that very well could be the reason why anytime we have Lucy, we almost always have something that has to do with everybody on the ground in 30.
And before we get back to Norm and Vault 33, I should mention, before all of that, after that scene where you find out that Steph was from 31 and they talk about the mashed potatoes, as Norm's pushing the cart, because that's still his job, is to push the cart to feed the Raiders and shit like that, you can hear over the loudspeaker the new overseer, Betty, talking about how she wants everybody together because they're going to talk about the next steps for Vault 32.
Yes.
And what they're going to do there. So now when they cut back, Betty's walking all of the Vault dwellers through Vault 32 and basically telling them that what's going to happen is some people are moving here now, and you're going to fix this place up, make it habitable, all that shit.
So they're going to turn it like they did after the Raiders attack in 33. They're going to paint the walls, repost those stickers, and make everything all fine and dandy again.
Absolutely. And what's his face? Norm got a little bit more bold and decided to ask Betty what happened to his mother's Pip-Boy when she was gone.
And Betty said that he was buried with her.
Yeah.
And Norm was obviously Norm knows that it was used to get in.
So he knows she's bullshitting.
But he asked her, he goes, "How are you so sure?" And she tells him that there was only two people that buried your mother, your father and me.
Yeah.
That's it.
And she was buried with that Pip-Boy.
Yes.
So then after that, it cuts away from them. I believe it ever goes back to them. You finish the episode with Lucy and Maximus, and you find out that she ended up falling for the same trap, essentially. That's why you never saw her when she went in. She found the same door, went to do the same thing, and they ended up landing on these fucking gurneys. And as soon as they get up, Maximus is like, "Where are we?" And she looks around and notices they're in a vault.
Yep.
They're in an inhabited vault. Like, there's people walking around and smiling and all that. And she basically looks at him and she's like, "You're in the safest place you could be right now."
Which was very wild.
Yeah, it's like, girl, I just tried to find medical supplies to fix my arm and fell through a hole in the floor, and you're telling me I'm safe here? Like, that's strange.
Yeah, but like,
and my brain immediately was like, did they fall into Vault 31?
Like, see, that was my thought as well, because
But,
we already know what 32 looks like, so we know it couldn't have been that. We know, and obviously 33 is where she's from. She would have said something if it would have been people that she recognized.
Exactly. So my brain was like, Vault 31.
It could be
It's gotta be
31,
Vault 31.
or it could be just
random.
It could be another vault that that might be in a set of trio somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Under there.
Yeah, but that's where that episode ends.
Yep.
And so a lot moved forward there. One, you start to learn that there's some sketchy shit going on with Vault 31 and why all the overseers are coming from there and what's in there that so many people were dying trying to get in there to get.
I think we're gonna
I think the next episode is gonna be. I feel like they may milk this a little longer because you got to think the next episode is gonna be pretty ghoul heavy. He's a main character. You didn't get him once in this episode.
No, but at the same time, Maximus is a main character, and we didn't get him once.
True. I mean, they're all main characters. But
yeah, but again, the main we're following Lucy. Everything is about following Lucy. All the side character stuff is cool because the ghoul is very much like Valentina. You know what I mean?
Valentine. Nick Valentine.
Yeah, Nick Valentine. Even though he was a synth, but still, you know what I mean. You have that. You have the same thing with him. You mean the same type of camaraderie, and you gain a little bit of his backstory. And it's cool what we've learned about the backstory with him, but none of that is relevant when it comes down to what the actual story that they're giving us. You mean it's all surrounded by Lucy.
But I'm excited for episode 6, man.
Hell yes.
I'm ready. Did you watch it already or no?
No, not yet. I'm gonna watch it this week.
No,
I make sure I watch it.
I usually watch.
I
usually watch it on the day, so like I'll probably watch it next Friday. But yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, man. So what we're going to do is we're going to let Ant take us out, and then we're going to give you like right here. I mean, this is fuck it. I'm not even going to give it. I'm trying to work it while I talk. Fuck it.
Glorious. It's a glorious day today, and it's Saturday, and we're going to connect with CGC. You can find us at consolegamingcrew.com. You can find us at our email, which is consolegamingcrew@gmail.com. Our Twitter handle, by the way, is at consolecrew. YouTube and Instagram are both Console Gaming Crew. If you check us out, check out Boss Rush Network, which is bossrush.net. Great place. There's lots of things you can find there, aside from us. Great people. By the way, Twitch should be returning at some point. It is CGC Podcast. We have Co-op Mondays, and we're going to do something fancy for Fridays. I don't know yet. But that's where you can find us. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.
This was a show from
6 years old, maybe. Productions.